All right, thanks everyone for joining. Hello and welcome to MABA's second webinar of 2024 on effective communications with the public. My name is Stephanie Spalding and I'm the moderator today. I'm a member of MABA's board of directors and I'm happy to serve on the programming committee. Before we begin our formal session, I would like to welcome John Leslie from the MABA PFAS focus group to provide an update about the group and some of the valuable information that's being worked on to share with the MABA members and the Biosolids community about this important topic. So welcome, John.
John, I don't think we can hear you. Uh-oh. All right. I think we're experiencing technical difficulties, but I can do a quick share of the MABA PFAS pages.
Thank you, Mary.
All right. So as you may know, last year around this time, MABA created as a sub group of the communications committee, the MABA PFAS focus group. So we have a wealth of information available on our website. You can get to it right from the homepage here by clicking on this area, the Learn More About PFAS square, and that takes you to the basic opening page. This is available to everyone, and then there are individual links here to everything from our PFAS position statement to a press release, the EPA's strategic roadmap, etc. And then these links below, the series of links, this list of links, each one of those is a page of information from research to presentations on specific topics. So PFAS and biosolids, comparison of PFAS exposure, transformation of PFAS, health effects, fact sheets. And you can also access this information from the resources drop down up here. Within this, you will see that we also have begun to collect data on PFAS test results from different facilities in our region. And it's a guarantee of anonymity of those results. And we can provide a letter. There's a link here for a letter. It is a generic letter, but we can, offer a specific letter for your facility to guarantee the anonymity of that information. And then we use that information to detail an average of the results in the region. So this should be helpful to folks to know where they stand against the average for the region overall. And it's also just interesting information. So I welcome everyone on this webinar to take a look at those pages. If you have any issues logging in or finding it, please feel free to reach out to me. And if you're interested in becoming a part of the PFAS focus group, please let me know.
Great, thanks, Mary. So hand things off, I'm going to talk about our first speaker here while she starts to share her screen. We do have 3 presentations today. The presentations are about 20 to 25 minutes, and we're going to do Q&A at the end for all of our presenters. But please use the Q&A option on your webinar to go ahead and list those questions as you're thinking of them. It might be good to tag the speaker so that when we come back, we can direct the question to the right speaker. So please feel free to add questions throughout the presentations today, but we'll be trying to address all of them at the end as a kind of a group discussion. So our first speaker is Maile Lono-Batura. She is WEF's Director of Sustainable Biosolids Programs. She joined WEF in 2021 after serving as Executive Director of Northwest Biosolids for 22 years. She serves as a central coordinator and network leader for WEF's biosolids programs, finding synergies across organizations to elevate impactful movements, including growing a circular water economy and addressing the social stigma surrounding what we all flush. Maile earned her bachelor's in community environmental planning with an environmental studies minor from the University of Washington. She received her master's in nonprofit leadership from Seattle University. She's a certified compost facility operator and a board-certified environmental scientist with the American Academy of Environmental Engineers and Scientists. She was also recognized as the AAEES 40 Under 40 Rising Stars Class of 2022. Welcome, Maile. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Stephanie. And thanks for having me here, Mary, and all of MABA. It's great to be here again. And you'll notice in this presentation that there's a few little repeats from a earlier presentation I did for MABA, but I just want to kind of set the stage and get it back kind of to where we were before and kind of show the progress since then. And I do have some surprise guests, so hopefully all the technology will work out today so that they can join in. I'm really excited to share this with you guys today. So one of the things that I did before I came onto WEF, by the way, I'm celebrating my 3-year anniversary this month. So been with WEF for 3 years now. But one of the things I really wanted to do is learn more about what the sector felt like we were doing right, what we were missing the mark on, how we could improve. And really what I heard back from a lot of the biosolids practice leads around the country was we need to be better and more proactive about what we're doing. We are so poised to tell this story. It's one of the greatest stories ever, and we don't tell it enough in a way that we can. And we have such experience in this that we really need to share that. And we really need to bring it home, make it personal, show people their role in how this all plays out. Everybody plays a role, and that's something that is really unique to biosolids and is something that we can really maximize on. The narrative really is tricky and not tricky, right? So these are very general, but I just wanted to give you an idea of here's, kind of a snapshot of the narratives. From the external view, there's a very much a flush and forget. We don't even connect with what happens after we flush, right? So a lot of people don't even know that it goes somewhere. People think it like disappears. There's also this conception that utilities created. There's this phantom factory in the middle of nowhere that makes this, and it has nothing to do with us. Completely false. And there's also this, just this inherent feeling of not in my backyard. I don't want anything to do with this. This is nothing to do with me. So this is something that we work against, and it's just a reality of what it is. But there's also an internal narrative, right? And the internal narrative, and I'm sure you've all seen these, the map that shows the water resource recovery system and what happens. There's an arrow that goes off the map at biosolids, and sometimes it does show the end use, but it doesn't show it in a way at times that connects it to here, this actually gets used. This is a beneficial resource. So even internally, we struggle sometimes to talk about it. And it's under the radar. So many times people have to interact with media or have to answer questions. There's this kind of, oh, I'm a little bit scared to talk about what we do because there's a fear there, right, of what might come out of it. And then also this non-association. It's like, no, I don't do that. It's like, yes, you do. Everybody does. And it's interesting to me that there is such that disconnect because younger audiences are really proud about this and really curious about it. And somehow along the line, we lost that inquisitiveness. So why engagement? Just really, really briefly, this is a platform for behavior change, right? This is a reason that we can really engage with people and bring them into the story. When you're part of a story, you feel like you have control over something, and that is very powerful, something that we need to do more of. And it's something when you connect further up the pipe to the flusher and what's happening there, the light goes off and it's like, oh, I get it now. This is something that we all do. We all contribute to. This is a product stewardship story. This is a collective community story that we can tell. And it also talks about and leans into climate, food security, access to sanitation. So really what we wanted to do starting out with this new biosolids position at WEF was talk about it in a way that we haven't talked about it before, really kind of step up social engagement, step it up in a way that we hadn't really as proactively done before. And we wanted to focus on the future workforce and passionate people around climate change and sanitation innovation and talk about it in a way that really engages those folks and brings them in because there's just such a wave of these incredible people that are out there that are really excited about this and the potential for it. So what we set out to do was nothing that WEF had ever considered before. And it was a little bit of an uphill battle. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. But it was something that we knew that was going to shake it up a little bit. It was going to get attention. And we set out this campaign called 2022 Year of Poo, which featured fun fecal facts, Friday flushes of people around the world who have made flush and poo a part of their repertoire. So we wanted to really feature these people and show a whole nother workforce that people hadn't really talked about in a way that is human. So we started socials, right? We did social media posts. And the idea of these was to make it humorous, let them lean in with it a little bit to make it more about a human story and give them something that they would remember. And so like the Fatberg one is about fatbergs and this monster under London, but it's also about don't flush your wipes or your grease, please, because these fatberg monsters form under London and that's not great. And then also the surveillance, wastewater surveillance and wastewater epidemiology is such a big thing now. I have coworkers that I have that are at WEF that really focus on this, and it's fascinating talking about that. Who doesn't lie? It says what's happening in the community. Let's maximize on that. So telling these stories about it, plastics, we talk about microplastics, what happens with them. We eat plastic voluntarily without even thinking about it because it is in so much of our food packaging and what have you. But that story too is about not just, there's such a focus on biosolids, but it's like we're directly ingesting this. So bringing that home and bringing that message home and talking about, how much we produce per person versus the national average. And then the food loop, talking about that this isn't really we were just one stop on the food train, right? This is all about a digestion, nutrient cycle story. So how do we really talk about that in a way that this is something that is valuable. It's not something we should throw away. As well as there's gold in the pipes, which is an interesting story as well. So then we had the fun fecal facts, we have the Friday flushes, and what we really wanted to do is these are just snippets, right? These are 5 minutes. And I invite you to go to europoo.org to check out some of these. I'm going to bring a few of them on today. Hopefully this will work out. If not, you can go to the website. But we just wanted them to briefly say, who they are, who they're with, how did you happen upon this fascinating world, and why did you choose it? And if you could pick one floatable key nugget of wisdom to share, what would you share? And if poo could talk, what would it tell us? And at the end of it, we had everybody say, my name is Maile and I poo too. And it was just this incredible movement that's been happening. And we've been really, really honored to bring all these people together. So I have Lena. Lena was one of our first batch of folks that came on. She wrote the book, The Other Dark Matter. If you haven't read it, please give it a read. Such fascinating history that she was able to dig into. And that was really, really great to have her on. So I'm going to give this a try. Hopefully it works. Let's give it a go.
That each and every one of you is a super pooper because your bodies produce an extremely valuable metabolic output. It's called people's own organic power, or poop. The planet needs it, the soil needs it, the circular agriculture needs it, the economy needs it, even the energy industry needs it. So, my dear humans, love that shit. Did you ever wonder what poo would say if it could talk? Well, you know what? We can ask it. We can ask my faithful assistant, a poop hat, which comes in these lovely rainbow colors because each and every one of us poops. So what will poop say? Don't flush me, use me, reuse me, recycle me, upcycle me. I can grow food, cook dinner, generate electricity, fuel cars, fight climate change, and even cure disease. I am Lena, and I poo too.
And this is one more that I wanted to share. This is Liv Johansson. She works at the Woodland Park Zoo here in Seattle. I'm based out of Seattle. And she does all the zoo poo, right? So she's doing all this incredible compost program at the zoo, and she wanted to talk about it. And so I went up there and met with her and looked at the compost yard. Here's what she had to say.
I would say that if poo could talk, it would probably tell you that it's a really good problem to have. When manure comes out the back end of an animal or a human, or animals too, it is chock full of incredible microbes. It is chock full of incredible nutrients, things that our digestive system can't take up all at once. And it is a tremendous waste and a loss to our environment to throw that away. It is a much better use of our time, our resources, and our energy to turn that into a compost product or a biosolids or anything where we can get it back into the earth from where it came. And so I'm just one little part of that cycle, but I would encourage you all to think twice about what happens to your poo, to think twice about what happens to your animal's poo, and to really appreciate all that it holds and all that it can become. And I'm Liv and I poo too.
So since then, we've had 32 movement makers join the Friday Flush family from around the world. It has been a blast. And I want to encourage any one of you who knows somebody, who is somebody, especially utility folks that manage programs. If you haven't been on here and you want to be, talk to me. We would love to bring you on, make you one of the movement makers, because you're a very key role in this whole story. So just a list of some of the folks that we've had on the Friday Flush, and I thought it might be kind of fun to do this
I'm
and
Rachel,
show you
and I poo
their
too.
sign off.
Hi, I'm Ron Alexander, and I poo too.
I am Lena, and I poo too.
Hi, I'm Sally Brown and I poo too on a good day.
Hi, I'm Jack, and I put you.
Hi, I'm Sean Schaffner from the Poop Project, and I poo too.
I'm Bernadette, and I poo too. Thanks.
I'm Alex, and I poo too.
Hi, I'm Kelsey, and I'm poo too.
I'm Nora, and I poo too.
And Kim, and I poo too.
Hi, I'm Chris, and I poo too.
Hi, I'm Aaron, and I poo too.
Hi, my name is Shay, and I poo too.
I'm Bryn, and I poo too.
I'm Liv and I poo too.
I'm Rick, and I poo too.
I'm Austin, and I poo too.
My name's Cody, and I poo too.
I'm Troy Hale, and I poo too.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Corso, and I poo too.
Hi, I'm Sandy, and I poo too.
Hi, I'm Katie, and I poo too.
Hi, I'm Dan, and I poo too.
My name is Jenna, and I poo too.
Hi, I'm Kat, and I poo too.
My name is Masaru Kobayashi. I poo too.
I'm Sarah J. Westlake, and I poo too. My name is Anna, and I proudly poo too.
So my name is Nick. I poo too. Actually, I poo almost once a day, if not more, because that's the only time I have to myself. So I really enjoy going to the washroom and being peaceful without the 3 kids.
My name is Lee, and I poo too. So do you. So let's do all we can to make waste history. We'll do it together. The trees thank us for it.
So that was just a snapshot kind of who we had on. These are some of the most incredible people you'll ever meet. And I've just had such an honor. It's been such an honor to have them part of this campaign. Right now it's 2024, Poo Galore. We change the name every year to have fun with it. If you go to yourpoo.org, you can get this toilet tank book, free download just for you, courtesy. Thanks for supporting the effort. And we're also on socials. Tell all your friends. Please follow us there as well. One of the things we also wanted to do is step up our campaign. So we did a research project on trying to figure out something that could be mass media, much wider reach, not as grassroots, but still in the same vein. So we kind of did a research project to look at these different campaign ideas. And I won't go into each of them. You kind of can get the idea. Had a lot of fun with it. And we're looking forward to continuing this in the future. Another big thing that we did was a PBS Biosolids special feature with The Viewpoint with Dennis Quaid. Didn't get to meet him, but he helped introduce the video, and we had DC Water host us. Ocean Sewage Alliance was also there to help tell the message about what their mission is and how they play into that. And this got such wide reach. The email campaign alone went out to 1 million recipients. It was aired for an entire year. The community came together. The Biosolids community came together to help this happen. It was not just WEF. It was all of these folks. You'll see their names at the end of the video. I won't play it today because we don't have time, but I do want you to go there and check it out. Share it with if you have a community meeting, if you have, anything that you want to share it with folks internally. It's a great video that kind of just tells a story about it, Biosolids and how fascinating it is. I wanted to point this out. This gentleman with the arrow pointed at him, he's the PBS videographer who came out, and he's in DC water, and he's witnessing the solids building for the first time, and his mind is blown. And it was just so funny to see the transition, right? From being kind of nervous of what they're getting into, and then just being the biggest fan at the end. It was priceless. So it is on here. We'll put the links out for you guys so you guys can watch it later at your discretion. But it's a great short video that you can share all around. Something else I wanted to bring up is WEF did a biosolids communication toolkit. I actually worked on this when I was on the Northwest Biosolids side, so I had a kind of a different angle of it. But then I joined WEF, and then they put this out. It's fantastic. Very, very chock full of information, infographics. Really wanted it to be a resource for people who are just hearing about biosolids for the first time, and how to kind of guide people through that. And it's what it is it's kind of leveled to the different, you know, size of meal that you want. So if you want like an express meal, it's got the express version. If you want the, you know, extended lunch version, it's got those kind of, you know, expands a little bit more on it. And if you want the full meal deal, you have kind of all these different resources you can dig into. But there's different resources there. There's infographics for social media and outreach materials, talking points, all kinds of things. So if you haven't accessed this yet, please do. Another big thing that WEF has been working on recently, and is something that my role has been transitioning more towards, is the circular water economy. So this is something that WEF has put out a strategic goal for. It's something that we've done for many years. We just haven't called it this necessarily, but we really want to elevate it more so that we can reach beyond our fence line and work with people and build alliances for that collective impact. So we've been putting on this Circular Water Economy Summit. Happened last year. It's going to happen this year. It's a big part of what I'm doing right now is getting that program together. I hope some of you will be able to make it. It's something that is really broadening our reach and really bringing our community, kind of building our community beyond what we typically have been reaching out to. And it's just really been eye-opening to see where we can really elevate the biosolids story into this circular water message and platform. So how do you start? How do you make this, how do you change your communications? How can you really level it up? And I'd say definitely go to the communication toolkit, excuse me. And also, look through it. It has a lot in it, but you can kind of self-select for what you want. And then also bring flushers along, especially those of you who have programs. Take people out, show them the product, show them your fields, show them what it does, because it is truly something that when they see it, they can better understand. And that's bring people along, and also just communicate that in a way that is more human, and talk about it in that sense. I think it helps us to bring it back to the roots of it all, and amplify that a bit more in our messaging. Thank you so much for having me here today, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Maile, thank you so much. There's so many resources that you all have worked to develop, and I love the tongue-in-cheek talking about how everyone poops. There's children's books about it, right? So please do put questions in the Q&A box, and we will log those for Maile and get to them at the end. But now that we're coming up from the macro level, let's get into more of a couple of case studies of communications programs from specific utilities. So our next speaker is April Thompson, and she is the Senior Director for Bloom, which is a branded Class A EQ biosolids product developed by DC Water and marketed by Blue Drop. She oversees all marketing and sales activities for Bloom, whose sales totaled over 65,000 tons in the 2023 fiscal year. A graduate of the American University and the University of Virginia with an MBA and a Master's in International Development, April has worked at the nexus of entrepreneurship, agriculture, and the environment, both locally and internationally, in a wide variety of roles and contexts. She also worked as a freelance writer for nearly 30 years. Welcome, April.
Thank you so much. As a lifelong communications professional, I'm very excited about this topic, and I loved Maile's presentation because you'll hear some echoes of some of her lessons learned in what we have done here with Bloom. So I will dive in. For those who aren't familiar, Bloom is DC Water's Class A exceptional quality fertilizer and soil amendment product. We are produced using a combination of thermal hydrolysis and anaerobic digestion. And we were the first in North America to put that CAN-B system in place. And as far as we know, we still hold the superlative of largest, most advanced wastewater treatment plant in the world. Something we're very proud of. And I actually do not work for DC Water. I work for Blue Drop, which is, I kind of call a tentacle of DC Water. It was a nonprofit LLC subsidiary set up to be more entrepreneurial and nimble and focus on everything that's kind of outside of DC Water's wheelhouse of services and products, to include marketing Bloom. We also rent our beautiful LEED certified building on the waterfront to folks for weddings and things like that. So our little group does a number of things, essentially to save ratepayer money. We are sold in Virginia, Maryland, DC, and Pennsylvania in bulk to a wide variety of customers. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. And as a Class A exceptional quality product, we are suitable for growing anything and everything. And I have a slide that will kind of depict that in a minute as well. So as mentioned in the intro, we sold 65,000 tons last year, which was exceeding what was a pretty ambitious goal. And this year we are on track to sell 71,000 tons. So I'm going to tell you a little about our lessons learned in communicating and marketing through that endeavor. So just about our products. At present, we have 3 different registered products. One is what we call our Fresh Bloom. That is for construction, farmers, and soil blenders primarily. And then we also have a couple of value-added products that we make right at the plant, and also have partners who make those off-site under our permit, the woody and sandy blends, which are great for everything from lawns and golf courses to home lawn and garden. So this is just a mere smattering of all of the different things that have been grown in Bloom, and this list keeps growing. We don't have on here hemp, but we also have hemp customers in Maryland. Everything from, commercial commodity crops to specialty commercial crops, and then lots of things that hobbyists grow in Bloom, from, their grapevines to make wine to, home veg gardens and school gardens. So, along with that means communicating to a really wide variety of stakeholders. And so I've kind of put this together in the 10 tips for successful biosolids marketing communications. But I would say, even if you don't have a branded biosolids product that you are involved with, these are lessons that you could really extrapolate in talking about biosolids to a wide variety of stakeholders. So number 1, to tailor to your audience. When I came on board in, it was actually April 1st, 2019, it was normal to kind of have a one-size-fits-all approach, because they were just getting into the market, trying to figure out who their customers were. So on the left-hand side, this is, if you guys are familiar with the Wayback Machine, that's where you can kind of go back in time and see what a website looks like at a certain point in time. So had this beautiful website, but it was really a little bit generic in the sense that, it's like one purchase page that, didn't really kind of break down the products for different applications and things like that. And over the next year and a half, really built out a really robust array of materials and advertising campaigns and web pages and all sorts of communications vehicles that would speak to all of these different use cases that I just mentioned. So if you go to our website today, this picture on the far right, we've got separate pages for farms, for construction, for landscaping, home gardeners, lawn care, etc., so that that people can find, you know, the information that's going to be relevant to them and speak in the language that's relevant to them. And then we have different ads and collateral that point to those specific pages. So these are examples of some of the different collateral pieces that we developed for these different audiences. And it's not just even a matter of, you know, developing particular materials. It's how you talk about it. So for example, farmers, you know, what they care about is, you know, how's this going to affect their yields? What is the price per ton? What is the nitrogen per ton? As opposed to a home gardener who may be used to looking at the label, you know, Ace Hardware, where it's going to be expressed in an NPK percentage. And it's also how you're reaching people. So for farmers, for example, a lot of these farmers we're working with, not all, some of them have, you know, are very digitally sophisticated, but some of them really don't have email addresses, or they don't check them very often. We're also dealing with the Amish community, where all they have is a community telephone. If they're placing an order, you know, we have to kind of do that old fashioned, like, I'll meet you under the Ferris wheel at 10 a.m. and hope that, you know, the stars are going to align, because we don't have a way to communicate with them very easily if something goes awry. So kind of being mindful of your audience and what they need to hear and how they're going to best hear this message is important. Number two is to be transparent. And to me, that has, you know, we often talk about transparency, but in our context, I can think of it in a few ways. One being data. And I'm so excited to hear about all of the resources that MABA has put together on PFAS, because I think initially there was a lot of fear about being transparent about our data, that this would be, you know, potentially taken out of context, or because it's very easy to misunderstand PFAS, as we all know, particularly in the absence of a chart like this that kind of breaks down the relative risk and shows, wow, yes, there is PFAS in bloom, but it's so low, and the pathway to exposure is indirect compared to something like cosmetics you're putting on your face, or pasta sauce, organic pasta sauce that had no biosolids in the growing, that you're putting in your family's mouths. So so I think it was really key to be upfront about that, because in the absence of that information, people are going to draw their own conclusions, and they're not going to be good. They're going to assume that you're hiding something, and or they're going to go online, and, you know, if they Google this, they're going to come up with another source that may be intentionally taking the data out of context, or unintentionally sort of not painting an accurate picture. So, you know, we've got a page on our website that has all of this information, and also nutrient analysis, which, you know, also includes things like our metals content. And again, we are a Class A exceptional quality product, so we're actually really proud of our data. But again, it's something that we do because we think it's important, not because we are forced to do so. The other thing about being transparent is to have people come behind the scenes with us. We love to take people on tours, and we feel like if people are, you know, are seeing the process, and they're much more likely to be on board. And, you know, there's no sugarcoating there. There's good odor days and bad odor days at the plant, and we can't really control those. But people really usually come, if they're not already coming as fans of Bloom, they usually come out converts, and we get a lot of orders coming out of those tours. So this is kind of related, but a little bit different, because you can be transparent in the sense of, you know, having that information available on your website, or you can be proactive about making sure that it gets out through different communications channels. And we have chosen to be very proactive with that, especially as I said, not all of our constituents are going to be online looking for information. A lot of them are learning things through word of mouth. And for example, just even no more than 2 months ago, we got a call from a farmer who had heard this rumor that if they used Bloom, they were going to be shut down by the EPA. And obviously that is quite a false statement. And and we took that, but we took that rumor seriously because that meant that someone out there was you know, sharing erroneous information. And we went out and started a PFAS event series where we went out to specific counties in our Maryland catchment area and, talk to them face to face, about what concerns they had and what we knew and what we didn't, because I think it's important also to be really honest about that. On the left here, this is an NPR reporter with Marketplace who happens to be an acquaintance of mine, and she did a piece on Bloom and on the technology. And at the time, the whole PFAS and biosolids crisis, as it were, was just kind of coming to a head. And the reporter had not heard about this, but we were really proactive about sharing that information because we did not want to not mention it and then have, folks come out and say that it was biased reporting, or, for her not to be aware that, this was an issue. And, we got a very accurate soundbite out by our resource recovery director and Blue Drop president, Chris Piat here. And they did do a counter interview, but it was all kind of in context and it was not the lead of the story. And so it all really worked out to our favor and we were proud to share this piece. We had people reach out to us afterwards, wanting to know what Bloom's stock ticker was and to invest in us. It's quite funny. Number 4, be personal. This is something Maile talked about. Especially when you're dealing with detractors, it's easy to, to attack this anonymous source instead of realizing there are, people and stories behind this product. And we like to tell this in a number of ways. Even when talking about something like PFAS, one thing that Chris likes to say is like, hey, I use Bloom on my own family garden. I love my family. I feed them this food. We really believe in what we're doing. And that seems to really have an effect. So these photos that you see here are all things grown in Bloom. The bottom 2 are from DC Water employees. This photo on the left is, this was a Buckeye tree that I had planted in our community garden in honor of my late father. We are from Ohio. That's the Buckeyes tie-in, and it was horrible soil. I mean, this was basically, we were like having to take up big pieces of bricks. And, these are the kind of stories that essentially use Bloom to break up the soil, and the tree is still doing well to this day. So I think telling those personal stories is important too. Number 5, to shore up allies and influencers. When I came on board, they had a series of videos from community influencers and allies, and one of them was this Dr. Frank Guin, who was a soils expert with the University of Maryland. He has since passed on, but his impact has been so great that to this day, I will we'll have people who reach out and inquire, and when we ask them how they learned about Bloom, they'll say from Dr. Guin. He really, went out on a limb and how he got behind Bloom in a way that, for a researcher is a little bit rare. And that had a real influence. I love to sort of brag about some of our notable customers in all of our communications. The architect of the Capitol that manages the US Capitol grounds is one of our customers. We've got Bloom that's been used on Martha Washington's heirloom roses. the Capillary of Food Bank uses it to grow food for hungry seniors and families in the district. And those kind of things really have an influence when someone is, kind of skeptical of what Bloom is about. And when they see that people like Dr. Guin are behind this, and that, professional landscapers, like the US architect at the Capitol, that really has an influence. You see on the left there also, we already heard from Lena Zeldovich, but she had already written this book before I came on board, but I made a point to, sorry, my cat is leaning over my screen here. I made it a point to reach out to her and really shore up that relationship because, she was such a passionate advocate and, could reach a lot of great audiences. She interviewed me for the BBC, I think about a year and a half ago. So shoring up those relationships, I think, is really important too. So it was mentioned, I am a freelance writer. Oops, got 15 minutes in. Okay. And so one of the old rules of writing is show, don't tell. And I think sometimes we can be sort of heady in how we talk about things, where, when you're relying on data, it can kind of be in one ear and out the other. If, especially depending on who you're talking to, some people are more visual and story oriented, but generally, speaking, when you're kind of using a storytelling approach, you're gonna capture more audiences and they're gonna retain the information better. So for example, you can say this is safe for pets and kids, or you can show this picture of a beautiful lawn with a gorgeous dog just relaxing on a bloom infused lawn. You can talk about corn yields, or you can show this farmer's hand next to an ear of corn that he grew in bloom. You could talk about soil health, or you could show this earthworm emerging from soil that had been amended with bloom that previously was devoid of earthworms. So I think that is an important lesson as well. Number 7, to be credible. And I think there's a couple ways we can think about this. One is credibility can come in a few ways, and one is having data to back up what you have to say. And we partner with a lot of research institutions so that we can really back up our claims when we're talking about something like drought resistance or water retention, greater root growth, all of which are things that we can point to the background data on. And then through third-party institutions also, like the USDA, we are a USDA certified bio-based product. And let's be honest, it's probably a label that none of us have heard of, or not very many. I know I didn't until I came across this, but it was really welcomed by our resellers, for example, to be able to have that seal of approval, even if people never heard of it, because it's USDA and that has a meaning to them. Number 8, be clear, concise, and consistent. Again, this kind of goes with a tendency to be overly text heavy sometimes. I am definitely someone who I'm a freelance writer. I'm used to writing, a 1,000-word piece. But, whenever you're doing some kind of communication, it's important to kind of take a step back and think, all right, what are the 3 messages I want people to take away from that piece of communication? No more than 3 pieces, I'd say, even though I have 10 tips in this piece or this presentation. So a fact sheet on PFAS. I made sure that we had pull-out quotes that would kind of get to the heart of what we wanted people to know about PFAS, using subheads to break up text. And, so people are just scanning through that, what is their eye going to catch on? And along with that, just being consistent. And for example, with PFAS, we do have to tell that story in different ways for different audiences, but making sure that everyone who is involved with communications, from my farm salesperson to the person who may be answering the phone, that they have that that same message, and that they are consistently providing that in the same way that you're going to find on their website or in a presentation like this. Number 9, and this one might be my favorite, or is that number 2? And that's having a sense of humor. And obviously Miley's presentation spoke directly to this, but we have really tried to lean into what Bloom is and what it's all about, which at the end of the day is some recycled poop. So we've done things like, come up with these cute little stickers, which are much beloved by kids and adults. We have this really fun April Fool's Day campaign that consistently, since I've started, has been the top web traffic day of the year for us, because people share it around. And turn to a second page I just added this morning, because this just came out yesterday. We, in working with DC Water, they did this spoof video that was based on some social media trend I had never heard of, called the "Of Course" video, which is sort of an ironic, like, well, I am, fill in the blank. Of course I do. And then you fill in the blank with something that is not at all obvious. And so DC Water did a number of these little snippets, including, I didn't know that they were going to put me first, but they put my little bit first, which was me holding up Bloom and saying, "I work for DC Water. Of course I turn poop into plant power," and then just doing a little mic drop with it in my hands. This went viral immediately. DC Water had posted it to their social media pages. It then got picked up by this Washingtonian Problems account that has near 500,000 followers. And from there, we had just hundreds of people commenting on it with things like, this is referring to me, "The poop smith just crumbling dried poo with her bare hands." And one of my colleagues saw this and she was like, "I'm so sorry, people are so, so rude." And I was like, I love this. I think this is great. And, as they say, there's no bad press, and so when people are talking about you, that's a good sign. Anyhow, so if you're going to be willing to put yourself out there like that, you have to be willing to take some of these comments and roll with it. And what I love here is that this person who talked about the poop smith got a response from who knows who this was, saying it's heat dried and composted into dirt by then. And so this actually ties into my last lesson here, which is to keep calm and communicate on when you have those detractors. I think that's a good example, because I think sometimes there's a place for jumping in the fray and defending yourself, but sometimes if you just step back, someone will do that for you. And it was brilliant that someone knew enough about Bloom to be able to say, "Come on, guys, this is not just raw poop that she is putting in her hands right now." So, when you are communicating, you are going to run into some detractors, and sometimes they're going to be, rather heated. I have generally chosen, when we're talking about our own communications, to respond to each and every comment that people make. And I know not everyone would take that approach, but generally speaking, I find that people appreciate when you're willing to take the time to respond to their concerns. And you're not going to always change their minds, but I just screenshot a couple of examples here where people came at us really hard on our social media. One of these, the one on the right was on that was on LinkedIn. The one on the left was on Instagram. And I didn't put how I responded to this, but you see on the right here, she's the person's talking about how propaganda for biosolids always shows people holding in their hands, but quote unquote, those of us who live in rural areas where that stuff is spread around know better. And I did look her up. She was not in a rural area. She was kind of a DC policy wonk, but whatever, not going to call her out on that. But I, responded one by one to her concerns. And then she ended by saying, I appreciate this engagement and you are a talented communicator, which was a really high compliment, and show that people are actually willing to stay open and listen to what you have to say if you take that time. This one on the left was we were last what was it? Earth Day was it was actually a video being shared by a partner of ours, which is the Smithsonian Museum that we were going to be doing a Bloom distribution at. So that kind of even made it worse. It wasn't even just on our page. It was to a partner, and they were coming out just calling us irresponsible, equating us to big tobacco, trying to deny that smoking was harmful. And we kind of went back and forth a little bit. And by the end, he had softened his language. He said, your company could try to reduce risk by recommending use in non-food settings, which was a much better place than where we started. So anyhow, that's kind of up to people to decide how they want to respond to things like this. But the most important thing, however you decide to respond, is to do it with compassion and empathy for the person who is coming, to communicate concern, because they're coming often from a place of fear, and to not be defensive, take a defensive stance, but to really try to just express that you understand their concerns, and respond with facts. And also a little personal, like in one of these I said, you know what, I am an environmentalist too. I'm the one who runs the account. And again, coming back to making it personal, and suddenly they were communicating with a person, and that changed their tone a bit. All right, so that concludes my presentation. Thank you so much for listening, and I will welcome any questions at the end of our panel. Thanks again.
April, thank you so much. That was really great. Appreciate all the personal anecdotes also. Thank you. All right, so our final speakers of the day are about strengthening public engagement through project branding and stakeholder outreach. We have two speakers on this piece. We have Lisa Racey and Rahkia Nance. Since 2016, Lisa Racey has been managing capital construction projects as the engineering program coordinator at Arlington County's Water Pollution Control Bureau. Her project management experience includes new facility construction, existing process mechanical and electrical upgrades, and nutrient removal and recovery projects. She enjoys the challenges of executing complex projects while minimizing their impacts to plant operations and the community. She received a bachelor's degree in chemistry from the University of Florida. And Rahkia Nance is a senior strategic communications program manager, where she leads communications for water and wastewater projects in Virginia and the DC area, including creating public outreach plans, overseeing stakeholder engagement, coordinating the creation and distribution of outreach materials, and facilitating public meetings. Before she came to HDR, Ms. Nance has served in a variety of communication leadership roles within the sector, including WEF and DC Water, and has a bachelor's degree in journalism from Florida A&M University, a master's degree in strategic communications from American University, and a professional certificate in strategic management from Georgetown. Again, welcome, Lisa and Rahkia.
Thank you, Stephanie. And thank you to everybody for taking the time to participate today. So Rahkia and I would like to share our story with you. And I'm going to start by giving you a little bit of background about Arlington County and telling you about Arlington Region, which is our Biosolids Upgrade Treatment Program. So Arlington County is located in Northern Virginia. We're right across the Potomac River from Washington, D.C. We have a very highly involved community. It's a very urban area, and our community definitely cares a lot about environmental impacts. And so they follow things that impact the environment, like, for instance, a biosolids upgrade very closely. So we work closely with them in return. The water pollution control plant is designed to treat 40 million gallons per day. On average, we treat about 23 million gallons a day, and we get flow not only from the people in Arlington, but also from neighboring localities like the city of Alexandria, Falls Church, and Fairfax County. And in the early 2000s, we did a comprehensive liquids treatment upgrade that allowed us to meet the Chesapeake Bay TMDL requirements, because ultimately that's where we discharge. That upgrade did not include our existing solids processes. So it's definitely time for us to upgrade those solids processes. They've been in service for over 30 years. We currently use a lime stabilization process, and before that, we used incineration. But that lime stabilization equipment is nearing the end of its life. And we really wanted to take advantage of some of the newer technologies out there where we could better capture the resources inherent in the wastewater. So that may not always have been our approach to public outreach, but we really want to focus more on that public outreach. We talked a minute ago about how before lime stabilization, we did incineration. The public was actually a huge driver in the conversion from incineration to lime stabilization. And that happened late into the project development. So we want to take the opportunity. I know that all press is good press from April's, but this isn't the kind of press we want to see. We want to see people really excited about our products and our resources. So the public perceptions during the past upgrades really helped us to focus on prioritizing public engagement as part of the Arlington region. When we move on to setting our program goals, we actually involved the public with setting these goals. We started setting these goals for this program in 2015 with our master plan. Just so you know, right now we are in the design development phase, and we expect construction to be completed later this decade, so hopefully by 2029. But using the public to help us make those program goals helped us to better evaluate the technologies that would have the most impact not only to the plant, but to Arlington County as a whole. So Rahkia, if you jump to the next slide. So the ultimate upgrade technology that we went with was thermal hydrolysis followed by anaerobic digestion. First, this process produces a Class A product that you can use not only for land application, which is what we use now, but you can also do a lot of the things that April just talked about with community gardens or soil amendments. And so we're excited to produce a resource that we can give back to our community. The other resource that this produces is biogas. So that biogas can be cleaned and injected into a pipeline and become renewable natural gas. So not only do we have our biosolids component, but we also are able to create a renewable energy source that will benefit the county as a whole. And I just want to take a minute on this slide to talk about what a fantastic graphic this is. So Rahkia and HDR developed this. We really like that it's easy to read, it's simple, it's very visually appealing, and it communicates a intricate process that is incredibly complicated in a way that we showcase it at a lot of our community outreach events. So just thinking about the same graphics that you use internally as being great for the public, that's been helpful to us. And just to compare, again, some of the benefits of our current process, benefits of our thermal hydrolysis and anaerobic digestion process that were especially important to the community were things like less biosolids trucks per day. We're in a very urban area. We have a state highway running through us. We have residents right across the street. We also wanted to reduce the amount of chemicals that we were adding. So this process will add many fewer chemicals. And we also wanted to showcase the energy usage that would happen as a result of this project. So instead of our current process, which uses 2.1 millions of BTUs per hour, we would be generating energy. So we're really excited to communicate that to the community. And we think that that will help us explain the construction process where they have to deal with things that are not necessarily fun for neighbors, like construction noise or dust or vibrations. But we want them to see where we're ultimately going and to be excited about that. So now I'll turn it over to Rahkia, and she will talk to you about how we developed our brand and how we use it for outreach.
All right, thanks so much, Lisa. My name is Rahkia Nance, and as Stephanie mentioned earlier, I'm part of HDR's strategic communications team. And you saw a few of the graphics that our team developed to support this program. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how we got there, the processes that we use to bring some consistency and visually appealing images to the program. Now, when we talk about brand development, why would we want to brand this program? And it's because we wanted the utility, wanted Arlington County to really think about, okay, what do your customers and the general public think about when they think about your plan or what you do? What are the emotions they feel and why? Why do they react this way? And ultimately, what do you want them to know? What do you want them to feel? So our team led the county through a series of workshops where we explored some of this. And we also talked about who the key stakeholders would be for the program, what are their concerns. And then we worked with the county to develop what we call a brand personality. And we landed on what we call the Guardian. And you can see some of those characteristics here. And what this brand personality does, it kind of grounds all of the images that we use throughout our communications. You see these two images to the right of actual utility staff, and here they are, working to protect and defend public health and the environment. Our tone for communications is welcoming, it's friendly, and it's educational. And once you have this, you set this tone, you can begin to really build that environment to build trust between the utility and your customers and the general public. And it also goes to other audiences when you're communicating with the news media or elected officials, anyone that you're coming in contact with to really help tell that story effectively. Here's the mission, vision, and purpose of the Arlington Region program. And this really helps to orient audiences to the program. It sets the tone for communication. It also conveys to audiences the Arlington County water control pollution plants commit, but also while doing so sustainably, which is really at the core of the Arlington Region program. And this is one of my favorite parts of this presentation. I want to take a minute and really break down the logo that our team developed, going from left to right. So you see here, this shape is inspired by the shape of a digester. And it also kind of mimics the biosolids mounds that you might see at a plant. And then also you can kind of see here a hidden A that stands for Arlington. Moving on to the font, we're using a sans serif font. And for those of you who are not familiar with typography, that means that the letters don't have the little feet at the ends. And what this conveys is a progressive type personality and a break from tradition. And you see here this G, the circular, super circular strokes represent the upcycling natures of the program. The Arlington region name itself, the county really wanted a name that was bold and straightforward and focused on the end product more so than the process. And so we landed on Arlington region. And then lastly, this bold typeface here represents stability and dependability. In other words, the county is someone that you can depend on, that you can trust to be good stewards of the environment. Now going on to our specific public outreach and engagement activities, it is vitally important for utilities to engage with the public, not just talking at them, but really holding conversations, being open and transparent. I know that's a theme and some phrases that all of the presenters have touched on throughout today's presentation, but it really is such an important component to your activities, especially when you're communicating something like biosolids. There tends to be a lot of fear, there's a lot of unease, and frankly, there's just a lot of unknowns. Most people don't know about wastewater processes, let alone the opportunities for resource recovery. So that presents an opportunity for the utility to fill in those gaps, to educate them and really get them excited about what they're doing. And when it comes to this particular program, we convened what we're calling a Biosolids Advisory Panel. And this is comprised of residents who represent the various neighborhoods and civic associations that are close to the plant. And they've been serving as kind of a focus group for us. They give us feedback, they voice their concerns, they are relaying questions and concerns from their respective neighborhoods. And their input really has been invaluable to us, especially on the public outreach and engagement. We've been able to adjust some of our materials as needed in reaction to how they were responding to what we were putting together. We meet with this group on a quarterly basis. And this picture you see here is from a tour of the plant that we hosted for this group on Earth Day a few years back. And it was really rewarding to see their faces come alive. When we have these meetings, we're really just showing kind of renderings and drawings and talking about things kind of in concept. There's a lot of bar graphs and everything. So for them to see these things up close and personal, it really added a deeper level of understanding about what the Arlington Region program is all about. As I mentioned earlier, we take our public outreach and engagement activities as an opportunity to inform. Again, most people have probably never even heard of biogas, so we're really driving home what that is and what the kind of opportunity that presents. And we're also, of course, educating people about biosolids and what it means to be Class A biosolids and all the opportunities inherent in that. These pictures here are from some of our outreach activities. The picture on the left is from an event that is specifically designed to highlight activities within Arlington County that embrace recycling. It's called Rock and Recycle, and Arlington Region, we've had a presence there for the past 2 years, and each year I can say there's been more and more excitement and interest. It's a family-friendly event, so families are there with their children, not just learning about Arlington Region, but learning about the wastewater treatment process as a whole. We also often have a component about what not to flush. As Maile noted in her presentation, really getting people involved and helping them understand their role in this and how they can help and how their actions impact what the wastewater treatment process is. And then on the right, this is an image of the brochure that really gives a synopsis of what the Arlington Region program is. And here I've listed some examples of engagement opportunities that you might consider as you're going about your public outreach. And I do want to emphasize, don't forget to involve employees as a key audience. You know, they're on the front lines doing the work. So it's an opportunity for them to be very enthusiastic, passionate project champions. Our central hub for project information is our website, arlingtonregion.com. And you can come here and find out anything and everything you want to know about this project, what its goals are, where we are as far as the timeline. We also host a blog on here, and we have different voices from people who are involved in various aspects of the project. We encourage people to contact us. I mentioned the Biosolids Advisory Panel. We keep the meeting minutes and presentation slides on this website as well. We have a robust FAQ section that goes into detail about biosolids and also biosolids and PFAS. That's definitely of top concern for a lot of residents. And another feature that we also have on this website is a 2-minute video And I'm actually very proud to say that this is an award-winning video. And what we wanted to do was present the Arlington Region program, the wastewater treatment process from beginning to end in a comprehensive way that was also fun and engaging and really highlights the resource recovery aspect of the program. There's a QR code up on the upper left. So if you get a chance, I highly encourage you to check out the video. As I mentioned, it's also hosted on the Arlington Region website. And that concludes the presentation. I know that Stephanie said that she's going to be taking questions at the end, so I'll hand it back off to Stephanie. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Lisa. So we have about 15 minutes left for Q&A. We do have one question in the box right now that I'll read out, and then please send others. So one of the questions is for April, but anyone can answer them. It's related to, talking points that you used on social media when you've got people expressing concerns about the toxicity of biosolids. What are some of the talking points that you have used? And then Maile, I'm going to ask you to pile on after April responds.
That's a great question. I do not have hard and fast talking points for social media per se. I mean, we like for PFAS, for example, have internal talking points as well as an external fact sheet. Since I kind of do everything from soup to nuts for Bloom in terms of marketing. I'm the one, that would be signing off on that and responding to it. So I kind of take things as they come. And DC Water has given us a lot of autonomy in how we respond to things. And so far they continue to do so because I think they trust us to do so in a an accurate manner, I guess. So yeah, I think it might be more of an issue if you've got like a social media coordinator who may not as be familiar with some of the points, but yeah.
Thanks. And Maile.
Yeah, I just put in the chat there too that the toolkit does go into like general kind of guidelines that you can look at in terms of, what words to select and what words to avoid and things that people respond to overall arching like platform type messages like safety and environmental benefits and things like that that can help kind of at least be guideposts, not prescriptive in any way of what you should or shouldn't say exactly, but just give you kind of those lane control elements, like they have in the cars to kind of keep you in the right direction of what you want to customize it to. So there is a whole section on that in the toolkit that you can access. I will caution, just because on the regional biosolids side of my experience there, when you get into conversations, be really mindful of it because it is a platform for them as well. So making sure that you're being really cognizant. I think April kind of gave some good examples of how to engage with them and how not to, because it gives them elevation too. So you want to make sure that you're being respectful, but also being mindful of your time and your energy. And if it's really even doing any good. So just monitor that too.
Those are great responses. I don't see other questions right now, but I've kind of got one. I'm going to first ask Rahkia, and then also I'll ask Maile and April to chime in on, when you're thinking about how we've been all closed up in our own treatment plants for all of these years, how do you start opening up the process? Like what are some of the first steps that utilities and Lisa too, the first steps of changing from hiding behind the newspapers to opening up and asking people to start exploring and learning more about your facility, and how do you start this process? So Rahkia, yeah.
Sure. I think the first step would really be, defining your goals. I think we have these conversations as a sector among ourselves. We know how hard we work. We know how passionate we are, how talented we are. There's a lot of innovation going on. And we know those stories, but it really does no good if we're just kind of talking amongst ourselves. So I think one, just acknowledging the importance of getting those stories out there, and we're the best ones to tell it. And then two, I think that social media is a powerful tool to do that. You have the power to direct and create your own narrative, and you no longer have to go through the gatekeeper of news media or figure out how to pitch. Of course, that's going to be an important tool, but you have the tools literally right there at your fingertips. I know that sometimes resources can be scarce or non-existent. Depending on the size of your utility, you might have a customer service personnel acting as social media coordinator and media relations, so it gets tough. But I think having a strategy in place so that you can kind of right size that approach is really the first step.
Thanks. Oh, actually, we just got another question. I'm sorry, Lisa.
That's
Go
okay.
ahead.
I was just going to say, to add to that, I think one of the ways to get staff more comfortable with sort of the outreach is just tours, taking people around what we consider to be our home and showing them all the cool stuff we do. That's really helpful. And Rahkia, to your point of helping develop some of those talking points and guidelines for the people giving the tours is really helpful, because then they know what to focus on. They know how to say it. They know how to make the wastewater treatment process both more relatable to the public, but also how to showcase the amazing things that we do. So I think that's a good starting point.
So a question is, when developing a customer facing website, what would be an estimated timeline from start to finish? So for the region website that you were showing, Rahkia, what was the estimated timeline there?
Oh gosh. Let's see, we first started working on that maybe in the spring of 2021.
Okay.
And we were able to go live in the fall of 2022. But I will caution that there were just a lot of moving pieces. And I think a timeline for website development, it depends on how big you want to go. Websites can be very basic, or they can have all of the bells and whistles, and it really depends on how extensive you want to be. And of course, we know that websites are works in progress. When you go to arlingtonregion.com now, what you see is very different from when we first launched, and that's by design. We wanted it to grow. We wanted it to be more robust, because that's the nature of the project itself. So in short, to answer your question, I think the timeline just depends on how much content and how complex that website would be.
Maile, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, thanks for the question, Addison. This is very near and dear. This is going to age me for sure. When we did our website at Northwest Biosolids, we were so focused on the members, and so it was all about what their interaction was. We soon realized that's not what the website was really for. It was for the public to learn about what Biosolids is and what's happening in the Northwest. So we completely 180'd that and changed it to be more public facing, essentially just making it more general, and more putting more of those fun facts up front and more of those visuals, videos, pictures, basic information about forestry, about agriculture. Some like Bloom, they have a lot of those great fact sheets too. We used Dreamweaver, which is like ancient now. There's so many better platforms now you can use that are much easier, but I think it's dependent upon the resources you have available. And like Rahkia was saying, the timeline is also very dependent upon if you have a decision matrix in your utility that you have to go through. That can hold up stuff, really make it a lot longer. So just, it really depends on timeline, resources, and really who you're trying to target in the messaging.
Great. I'm not seeing other questions. Oh, yeah, I'm not seeing any other questions today. Maile, do you want to leave us with one nugget of thought about poo?
Wow, there's so many great ones. Gosh, I think the one that really stands out to me though is that when we talk about this, talk about it like a food loop, because even kids are just Actually, they're a lot smarter than than adults in a lot of ways. They get it, right? You eat it, you digest it. We go to a water resource recovery facility and they refine it. So, you know, you consume, you contribute, we refine, we rehome it, and it all starts again. And that to me is such a fascinating story that we all have something to do with. And that is something we should just shout from the rooftops. So don't be shy, lean on each other, lean on your peers, and lean on your community.
That's the best way to sum it up. I completely agree. I want to thank everybody for coming to the webinar. Thank you so much for our speakers. I hope you all found this beneficial and made you a little less afraid to talk about poo and share it with our communities. Have a great day, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Take care, everyone.